best shot. Certainly seems plausible as the rotation comes in. 3 coming towards CT. They'll split up towards the dugout. Just one player. Actually, no. They grouped back up. A bit of a grouping here. Just trying to play together. Make sure they can trade these frags out when they come forward. Brick will go for the first. Bowie, nice work on the site. Still staying alive. And even further so. Wall goes up. Makes life very difficult for the remaining member.
Oh, no.
Of the defense. Yeah, this is over.
Nothing you could do there. Unfortunate timing. Try to hop on it, but you don't find the actual kill in the first swing. And poorly timed swing off the back of well-timed defensive hold for the attacking side that was already playing the post plant. You're looking at that and saying, maybe best case scenario with the damage you've done, maybe building up a few extra credits with kills. But not the end of the world. You can obviously recuperate that, and at this point in time, ISU already won map 1. They've lost the pistol, sure, but it's 1 round. There's still more than enough time to recuperate that loss, and on the defensive side, you expect them to do so sooner rather than later.
Yeah, you would certainly feel that. Here's another one of those changes in the most recent patch. This no longer a ramp. And just got to commit to the fight if you're going to jump up there, and gives the defense a little bit more of an opportunity to take that fight in a fair manner. Moving forward, though, Python making a connection at least temporarily, but nobody gone down just yet. Pretty solid hold with 3 here on the site, with just classics. Surely it'll be limited, and indeed it will beat Spain, collecting the majority of those kills.
Sacramento State's aggression has just worked out nearly perfectly for them. Marol will find a little bit of damage from long range with the secondary fire in the Classic, but nothing really to write home about. And ISU was trying to play the new adjustments to this A side well, or the B side, with screens having that extension on the left side where you can kind of rat in the corner, to be completely honest, and some people won't clear that. But Sacramento State was aware of it. They played it well, they played aggressive when they needed to, and in the end, they still took those fights, as they were expected to do so. Let's be completely honest with each other. Again, they had the weapon advantage. They had already won the pistol. They were expected to win this. Now, ISU's on the opposite side of that coin. Now they're expected to take this round. Barring any miracles on the aggression from Sacramento State, can they take early aggression and turn it into their favor once more?
A good question. The answer yet to be seen just yet. But through mid, at least, is the plan for now. For Sac State, and they're going to find that duel against Snelly. That's actually a very solid victory, considering how much it cuts off the opposition and gives them space to work with. There's also not a clear committal towards the A or the B site, and you can see what it's done to the Redbirds. They're unsure. They've sort of partially rotated off of A because of it, but not yet committed to B. It's all over the place, and where this commitment lies defensively.
Seeming early aggression has disengaged a lot here for Sacramento State, and understandably so. They don't want to over-aggress into disadvantageous gunfights, into real estate they don't already have, but oh my goodness, nearly perfect utility usage to get into sight. They try and pop those nanoswarms, but they've already taken out the alarm bot. Nanoswarm is not actually active around that site. It hasn't extended far enough, and already you see a spike plant. Again, a retake is required, and yes, ISU has that weapon advantage, but now the spike being planted kind of equalizes things, as Sacramento State just fully disengages and is now looking to play for time in and of their own right. Retake being set up already. Raleigh finding one, denying Jared a better early aggression, but they try and go for the ninja. It does not work out though. Good utility usage and the swing from both sides. Feed with double, but it's down to Prick in a 1 versus 1. They need to hop on the spike. It's already been gained to half. They use the Seekers just to initiate the fight, but Feed has been, again, consistent on those fights. And just like that, Sac State turn it into a 3-0 lead.
They do, and a nice way to confirm a bonus round at that. Remember, you mentioned at the outset of this last round that, hey, this was a round that the Redbirds really were favored to win in pretty much every aspect. A very bonusy round from Sac State, as they were committing to, I think, 3 or 4 SMGs. The only rifle they had was a Guardian. It was very much hope you win it type of round, but they elected to take the right path, right? Get control over towards mid, create questions about where they were going to be located, and that caused rotations where the A site became more or less open for the taking, at least for the spike to go down. So Sac State Gold making themselves known early in this one. This 3-0 scoreline should be confirmed for more if they do things all correctly with the lack of a bye on the Redbird side.
Again, attempting to play in that more rat angle inside of screens. The disengage early for Redbirds has looked a little bit better in the early stages of this round. The problem is they're giving away a lot of B long. And with a lack of information there, you could be caught off guard more often than not. Frick is just waiting here with a Sheriff in hand and has immediately dropped Spain without the S. And oh my goodness, it's just walking straight forward. They find a double. Brawly's left alone inside of screens itself. Good information gain off the back of that haunt. They now have to disengage in and of their own right. They cannot play for that aggression, but they still decide to do so. How to Feed is trying to live up to their name, but luckily has some support as Python finds the frag back. And it's a 1 versus 2 already here. As just, what, a minute gone in the round? It's down to Snelly. They already decided to use the run it back. They want to play for some level of aggression, but they cannot get the defuse to half. They don't have the time to do so. Prowler goes through. They actually do get it to half. Oh my goodness, just barely. And Snelly can now play for that aggression without having to worry about the time as much. Flash around the corner, looking to play for early aggression, but Python is epic. Python is also accurate, as the operator will shut him down, and Sac State go up 4-0.
Oh man, awful close for a round that honestly wasn't even fully invested behind. For the Redbirds, they didn't even expect to win that, but they nearly did. I love the investment of the run it back as well. That's where that run it back can be very, very effective. You get it so quickly, you're able to use it in so many different scenarios, and well, unfortunately, the outcome is still a 4th round of the board for Sac State Gold, but a close affair for the Redbirds should give them confidence coming into this gun round about what they have to offer and how they can come away with maybe their first. And so, a little bit of information gathering going on the A side of the map. I think those are all trying to push forward a little bit, but only getting a modicum of success, or rather of information. Back towards B, it seems. The Sac State Gold side. That'll be found out by Frick here momentarily.
Again, a disengage, though. I don't think I've seen ISU play for this at all in the earlier stages of a round. And honestly, understandably, Toxic Screen will go up, so again, they do not have that vision. The spray down does a decent bit of damage, but Spade again just walking straight in. Apparently doesn't care, but probably should have. 1 kill now retrieved with a spike plant early. Prick finds a double from the backside, and Snelly's already trying to re-aggress as they walk straight in through split. By no means is this safe, but Jared now walking in on that flank. Have they been seen? That's the real question. The answer's no, but the kill still comes through. Bladestorm popped, aggression and vertically at that, and Python again in the later stages of the round is able to lock it down and find another double to put a 5th on the board for Sac State.
I mean, let's be real. Python deserves a lot of credit there, but it's actually Jared, this frag specifically, that really seals the deal for me, because it would have been, I think, an advantage there for the Redbirds if they had not gotten that kill. So Jared going down, then Python's job even more difficult. Python delivering 3 more kills. Obviously, huge stuff there as well. Not taken away from it. But that lurk kill for Jared, highly important too, as we're into another round where it's starting to get a little bit out of hand here, at least on the Redbird side. Going to be pushing up mid. 4 alive and 4 standing in that endeavor. Very aggressive. Jared, blind. They thought he got the kill, but they look away. Palma at least getting a second even with that. I think a collab, if I'm not mistaken. But, I mean, I guess the Sheriffs are just good enough.
Bring them down. Last player standing.
As a wise owl once said, the world may never know. And now down to a clutch, Moral is on a 1 versus 2, but everybody's low. Sure, Moral's on 10 health, but this swing may very well be able to net them a kill, but it just barely does not. And they now have to aggress with limited health. They do a Cloudburst masking their aggression, and they find a kill onto the first. Python still long range, and yet another clutch situation, and the operator will not stop fragging. A 4K in this round, 2 in the previous, and 3 just 2 rounds ago. It is multiple multi-frags on a consistent basis here for Python is Epic. And now 6 straight for Sac State. They don't care about map 1's finish.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly is epic, to be honest. We got 11 and 2 after 6 rounds. That is an absurd scoreline and stat line in general. And you have to start wondering, okay, what's the game plan here for the Redbirds if they aren't able to find anything soon? Because that last round, I mean, they were aggressive. They tried to find some space, and yeah, it was a bit of an eco round. Wasn't a full buy, I know, but still, they need to adjust, and adjustments have been made. The Redbirds forward position up long, but meanwhile, the fight in mid is still good for Sac State Gold, as Spain will find entry towards the mid area with A now on an island solo defense.
Viper's Pit used in Split, and they use the lockdown early on the site itself. The problem is the lockdown doesn't extend as far as you'd usually expect. It does still force Brawley out of the direct site hold, and they will give up full site control, a cove thrown far as well. Seemingly every bit of utility has been dedicated not only for the original site take, but now for the hold as well. Python is Epic again finds a kill because they're the jet on an operator. Why the heck not? They are not done fragging just yet. They are still looking for this frag, but they have been forced off. Good Nebula usage. Moral wants to play aggressive, but the problem is that will give away their position, and Spain now has to look back towards the site, and they're being split from 2 separate angles. The walk-in from Pomo is nearly perfect, and good utility usage to force them off. And they also have the Cosmic Divide now built up off the back of that. They can hop on the defuse. They only have to hold the cross. There's another for Pomo as they continue to frag out. They will not stop, but Python is Epic finds yet another. It's a 1 versus 2. The spike already to half, and the swing with the classic will lock it down as ISU will get on the board here on Pearl.
Yeah, finally a first round. It was awful close, though. Nearly enough done there by Spain, just being a problem in short. The issue is not that the kills come through from Spain. It's just trying to clear that angle. It takes a long time. They eventually do get there, and great work from Pomo. Not only the placement of the Cosmic Divide, that's, half the battle, but actually adjusting as soon as they get that first kill, making sure that they can get the second as well. Really nice stuff. The Sac State finally put down, at least for the time being. Blades will be committed once again, though, for this jet in order to get them into a full buy position. This time the aggression, it's over towards A, the outset. Info gathering being done. Spain was there for the offense of Sac State to watch it, but no longer. This is a full commitment, and that information should be gathered by the Redbirds soon.
I'm playing a little bit more aggressive this time around. Bladestorm used. Python is Epic wants to swing this, but a perfect usage of the Toxic Tree. Again, it's free real estate. It's not just a meme anymore. As the walkthrough comes straight through, Pomo does drop down Python is Epic, but a doubled up return brings that man advantage back in the favor of Sacramento State. And now a 4 versus 3 as they get the spike down for the upteenth time this half. They now have long-range engagements held over towards B long. Jared waiting here, I believe, has been caught by the Prowler, and as they're swung from both sides, they actually stay safe. They also have support from the other side of logs. They don't have to overswing if they don't want to, and Spain will be able to lock down frags regardless. A triple for them on the round, and Brawley now in a 1 versus 4. Low HP on 2 separate players, but they have to contend with an inanimate object and 2 players who are on full HP, but they die to the snake bite, and that bite is lethal for Sacramento State to now Brazil ISU.
Are we bringing that to Valorant now? Is that going to be a thing in Valorant as well?
I've been saying it in every game I cast, so
okay.
I'll say yes.
Well, whatever. I guess it works, to be fair. That's the first time I've heard it. Either way, bad news for the Redbirds is that they've just won the round, right? And then they instantly lose the next. You know how I feel about that. That's bad news in the game of Valorant. Never want to do that. That's one way for your economy to be busted up. And back on the save are this ISU JD squad now. Seems like it was only Python kind of stepping up in those first 6 rounds now. Spain doing the same. Python will go down. That's a free op upgrade for Moral.
Again, there's a return, and ISU's had some difficulties locking down those man advantages. Pomo wants to play aggressive here, but has now been caught by the Seekers, and Spain will drop them through the wall. Because, you know, why not at this point? It's just continuous and relentless fragging power from Sacramento State as they walk through and through and through. Brawley, however, just sitting around here with the Bucky, finds one, but is immediately returned upon again, and Spain with a 3K of their own. They're not done multi-fragging either, picking up where Python left off, and Sacramento State now up 8-1.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, Python was the only conversation. Now Spain in the running 14-6. Actually overwhelming his teammate on the end of, on the op, so it's just great to see overall. I don't know what exactly happened, like how it went down in map number 1 over on Haven, but this is clearly not the same Redbirds that won that map 16-14. Clearly.
They went to a break so that the stream could catch up, and I don't think that ISU has returned from the break.
Not in the same form that they were before, that's for sure.
Some difficulties. Obviously, they still need to make up for some of them, but the defensive side of Pearl, you'd expect, is where they're going to find it.
Well, I mean, it's hard. I actually think the attack can be pretty good on this map, pretty consistently. And this is Sac State's pick, so it isn't unreasonable for them to be finding success. It's just its level of success is a little concerning for ISU. Nonetheless, we'll see what can happen. This is a gun round, another one that, I mean, not that they found success in these, but maybe the best chance for them too. Another open site, though, at A is problematic to say the least, especially with the Viper Spit engaged.
They haven't cleared out main. That's one problem. They may think that there's a false sense of security, or they may think they are fully secure from that side. A full flank has already been pre-established, and it's walking through from that back side. They've used the Nightfall. They walk straight through. Good snakebite usage, but Spain has been caught out. There's that flank setting in from Snelly, and down goes the Viper's Pit. A trade is there, but it's still man advantages. Now doubled up here for the Redbirds side. 2 players left over. One will find, but Brawley will return. Killjoys combine for 3 kills. But Brawley finds the important 2 to close it, and Redbird again put themselves back up on the board.
I will say, an expensive round, but one that they much needed. Their first time actually winning in a real gun round. Remember that first win? That was a bit of an eco victory with some good stuff being done from the Redbird side of things. First timeout as well, actually. Ironically enough, from Sac State, despite being up, the Redbirds, they actually didn't call a timeout in that run of 7 rounds, where it was 7-1 at the end of it. Interesting, but we shall see. There should be a plan in place for ISU, though, coming into this next round. Because they have that run it back, they can really set up a play like that very well surrounding their utility. So I'm putting the onus on them very much to see what that plan entails.
My question remains for ISU's JV squad is, what are the noticeable changes between maps 1 and 2? Obviously, we can't give them a direct answer because we didn't see map number 1. It was a close first map, and it was Haven, which is a more stock standard map, so you may think that ISU is just more of a fragging squad, but really lonely looking at it, you're seeing Brawley show up and Pomo as well. Snelly, Prick, and Moral have combined for just 11 kills in 10 rounds of play, which, for all of you non-mathematicians out there, is not very good, all things considered. But Sacramento State, they've looked a little bit more consistent as a whole, and I think more importantly, they've played more aggressive as a team to just take that ground. They haven't been playing slowly. They honestly haven't been forced to do so either. But B main has been in their control seemingly every single round if they want it. A long most of the time, minus the previous round. And mid, there isn't all that much contention. Moral showing the first real point of contention on that side since round number 6.
I think for me, this has been just a solid way of playing for Sac State. They've just been grouping well. Initially, they are taking space, but it's not like they even hang on to that all that consistently. Ironically, Python's going to be on the flank this round. On a bit of a lurk. Guiding Light leading the way in. Pomo is in that newly made nook and cranny in the back hall. Python activating in mid. It's going to start to apply some pressure, but there's already a full rotation. Only one player still at A. And speaking of rotations, he'll be headed that way.
How does Brawley show up? That's the real question. They may not be cleared from this position. Seekers have now been popped, though, and that should be able to clear this spot. That's the all-important aspect of this. Brawley swings, and oh my goodness, just verticality shutting them down. Python is epic, will find that frag. It is returned. Prick actually finds a double. What is that from the KO? From the close side of CT, no less, and they've now equaled up the man count. Again, a post-plant required. Jared shutting down Snelly, no flank being set up with that aspect, but they still are looking to walk in. Do they clear out the close side of dugout? They do, but only a courtesy check. Prick now required on an ace. They have to worry about the top side of mid alongside the bottom where Jared knows they are, but Python just double swinging with their teammate again, able to multi-frag, and Sacramento State not slowing down anytime soon.
We talked about the difference between, you know, having a KO versus having a Sky and what the differences were. Well, honestly, it doesn't really matter by default if you're not using the utility well, and that's something that Prick really has struggled to do. I haven't seen a lot of good 0 points. I've really not seen flash drives that give me a lot of confidence, and the big kicker here is that they've sat on this null command for ages at this point. We've seen like 3 running backs, and still this null command hasn't been used. So right now, in that duel of initiators, the Sky winning out just by picking up so much more value from the usage of their abilities.
Interesting notion. You brought up the lack of a 0 point being used. If it was used in the previous round, they wouldn't have been able to double swing from 2 separate angles, at least vertically and horizontally at least, because the updraft wouldn't have been available for the rest of the round. They would have been able to play for that true 1 versus 2 on the same Z-axis. But it wasn't the case. And continual problems now setting in for ISU's JV squad. They cannot find a foothold on a consistent basis. Sure, they have 2 rounds. By no means is that a terrible thing. But the defensive side of Pearl, you said attacking's been looking pretty good. A 1-for-1 trade in the earlier stages of this final round of the first half is decent for ISU. They still need to be able to find that follow-up frag and deny the spike plant. And they just can't. How to feed, quickly dropping down Prick. Out goes your KO.
Well, I mean, good news is 0 point was used well before that. Now it's just a trade. Hot hands looking to deny that plant. Won't do so, but boy, out into the open, allowing the 2v2 to activate. Run it back. Has finally ended, and in that time, Rawl has fallen. Lockdown, final round of the half, gonna be used as it's a necessity. It's a bit of a cheeky angle. Jared playing right behind their own lockdown, making it difficult. Headshot only angle, essentially.
And 2 first half. That is scary from a team who picked the map. And sure, you said it. Attacking side has looked a little bit more consistent in recent patches. I think the main aspect of that has been because of those Viper changes, but even then, Sac State's still playing her and looking a little bit better doing so. But to be completely honest with you, I think the lack of that second controller here for ISU has been their downfall. They've been playing double initiator, which is not abnormal by any means, but doing so without that double controller, they just can't hold down real estate in the earlier stages of any round, and on the defensive side, that seemed to be their Achilles heel. They just could not hold down B long on a consistent basis. They were giving away free ground that Sacramento State had to use 2 pieces of utility to gain. It just didn't look good. Hopefully, the double initiator works for their attacking side.
Yeah, the problem is, I think that was more out of a decision to do so rather than a lack of the utility being available, though it wasn't there. So, I think it'll be tough. It'll have to be these initiators stepping up in a big way. But Bowie going to have success there. Trade frag late on at the very least, and an upgrade onto the Ghost. But a rotation called here for the attackers. The Redbirds are heading themselves out onto B. Now, utility already set up here. The toxic screen being put into position, and oh boy, that's scary for Spain. Entirely caught in the open.
Wide out. And losing that fight gives away the site. Brawley will be able to get the spike plant nearly unrestricted. And again, a retake is required, this time of Sac State. And already losing Jared on the bottom side of CT. You're down 2 players, and Pomo's actually retaken some CT control. That drop's been heard. Brawley finds the first. Pomo from behind will find the follow-up. And just like that, ISU win the second half pistol and give themselves a good jumping off point for the second half comeback.
Exactly. You know, really a must-win round. I think we'd both agree for ISU, considering the scoreline at 10-2. The thing that really changed the outcome of this round, actually, though, is the fight out towards backhaul. I forget who it was. I think it was Spain. It was Spain who got caught there in the little nook there on the left-hand side. Yeah, right where they were just a moment ago. That's where the round kind of turns on its head. Losing that control is what made things difficult for Sac State to hold onto the site, and so it's where you got to be careful if you're going to commit to an angle that is committed like that, where you aren't able to exit. Because you got to be able to fight your way out.
Sacramento State employing a similar philosophy to their defensive side of just laxing a little bit in the earlier stages of the round. Obviously, they have lesser weaponry in the second round, so they may be trying to play for those close angles with pistols or shorties or whatever they do in the field, which is not unreasonable by any means, but giving away that real estate to a team that is freely playing with better weaponry is a dangerous aspect of this defensive side. Jared misses the right click, and that'll immediately turn into their downfall. 2 players around the backside of the dugout. They will be taken care of in quick fashion. Frick with a double, and just like that, that may very well be our second round follow-up. Done and dusted. Sac State, just at this point, can really only do damage to the economy of ISU, much less win the round.
That Bulldog can be incredibly deadly, and we saw its effectiveness right there. Shorty in hand, I believe, for the Sky right outside of Art. Yeah, not a feed. Kind of going to force the issue, actually. Unfortunately, that is not a fight you can win with the Shorty at range. So, it will be a flawless round for the ISU squad. Nicely done. That'll get them back into at least some winning ways. Of course, that's potentially only temporary here because Sac State, they're going to have weapons back in hand now. What seems like the first round, they've actually been forced onto a save. And actually, that is, now that I think about it, the only save round this entire map for Sac State just happened there. So, rare that that's been the case. Now, up against Rifles, it'll be back to the more difficult pace. The Redbirds attack side, they're leaning towards A, at least for the time being.
These next 2 rounds, I think, will decide it. If Sac State win either of the next 2, I think they're in a pretty good spot and they will probably take things. But if ISU takes both and really give themselves, again, a good jumping off point, they may very well walk away with this map victory. Snelly, oh my goodness, Prick body blocked him, but still found the kill, so limiting the damage done, quite literally, as Snelly is still on a decent bit of HP, and finding the refrag gives ISU recontrol of that spike, and now forces Sac State to just disengage entirely. They can't play aggressive on that side of the map. Python, playing with a Vandal, just single taps Pomo down, and they're stacking this B side. This is wild from Sac State.
Yeah, but it's right. They're calling the right thing here. They're going to have 4 players ready to retake, or rather, not even allow the take here momentarily. Oh, that's brutal to look at. High tide immediately in your face. As soon as you think the toxic screen's going down, it's like, oh, sorry, you got to wait 15 more seconds for this high tide to disappear. And you can see what it's done to the offense of the Redbirds. They now have to be concerned about the flank. They need to be concerned about what's going on behind them. Of course, nothing going that way, but as time ticks down, it'll be yet another question mark to be had. Toxic screen back into play, but that's not before the cross comes through. Wall available, but fighting their way out of this. The backhaul's fully confirmed, and I can't believe it. They've come away with this.
The only reason that they're able to successfully have that flank set through as well, as Prick just holds W behind, is because everybody was firing. You can't hear footsteps if you're emptying an entire magazine into a wall. And because of it, Sac State was just caught off guard from 3 separate angles. They stopped worrying about that mid-rotate because timing just suggested it wasn't going to happen when, in all reality, that's exactly what it indicated was going to happen. And in the later stages, ISU just walked in. A lack of overall utility in the later stages of that round for Sacramento State actually cost them. Sure, they prevented some of the push in the earlier part with, again, that cove you talked about, the toxic screen going up and down repeatedly, but ISU timed it to near perfection. They had the flank going through, and even with that man disadvantage, they were more than happy to play for some level of aggression in those later stages. And ISU take the round because of it. That's an important round to win as well. It's the bonus, it doesn't cost them all that much, and they upgrade some of their weapons. They go from Bulldogs, plural, alongside a single Phantom and a Guardian, to Phantoms or Vandals across the board.
Yeah, the tough part for Sac State in this round is that they did everything so right for the entire round. They called the right hold, they threw the right utility, they were on the right site, and they did connect the shots initially. It's just, unfortunately, you're right, that lurk kind of activated at the right time, caused some confusion, etc., etc. And so, we'll see a little aggression being dialed up for Sac State in this round. And actually, Bowie does catch out Palmo, or Snelly, excuse me. Moral goes down. Palmo, the only one to survive that engagement. And I guess the only positive is that there's really no way to recover those weapons into the hands of the defense.
Oh, 1-for-1 trade favors Sacramento State, though. And there's a recovered weapon, upgraded from a Stinger and a Sheriff to now a Vandal and a Sheriff. And again, ISU is going to have to play with a man disadvantage. But this time, they have some level of superiority in terms of weaponry. They're looking to play again towards B. There is no Viper nor Harbor on the board, nor alive at this point. So they don't have to worry about the cove or the toxic screen to prevent them from actually entering the site. But that 0 point will indicate they're headed this general direction. And the fact that it misses may give them that false sense of security as they look to aggress.
This is certainly winnable.
Last
Oh,
player
that
standing.
is a great use of the gravity well, though. Pulling out one player. But how to feed still in the site. Playing
30
this
seconds
very grimy. Waiting for rotation to come in. Remember the changes. You can't spam in that mid pillar anymore. It's a lot more stalwart against the bullets. And so with that, the double swing and the victory for Sac State Gold. Fantastic play right there on an eco round nonetheless. 3-man aggression, initially up B. They win that, 2 for the price of 1. And then they double swing towards short. Again, a trade. And once they get onto the site, just playing very, very passively for Sac State, forcing the fights on their terms.
I would like to see a little bit more aggression in that 1v2. Play for the original fight and take it rather than allowing them to just swing as they please. Peeker's advantage exists, albeit in a very narrow fashion, Valorant, but it exists nonetheless, and you have to be worried about that. Snelly just dusts Python. Finally, the opening kill goes the way of ISU as they look to aggress. Run it back will be used. They want to try and get this aggression and do so for limited to no cost. They will give away an ultimate for it. They also have found information and an opening kill off the back of it. How to feed is not done just yet. Will take away the Phoenix and the ultimate thereof. Prick trying to aggress, flashes around the corner, but they can't find the frag off the back of it. The aggression walks straight through, and IUB turns for a second. Prick has been dropped, Moral dusted, and it's a 1 versus 4 here for Brawley to prevent what would be map point, forcing a third at a tied up scoreline. Their position known, information a plenty here for Sac State, and they could just disengage entirely.
Yeah, and that's what they've done for the most part here. I mean, Bowie still backhaul, but it's not a problem. The spike is in such a unattainable position as well with this operator. It's not unwinnable, but very close to it, especially if played correctly by Sac State. But main issue there is just allowing for Snelly to go down without getting traded. If you're gonna use the run it back there, you just have to be allowing that player, if they get killed, to get traded. And the spacing was so far away from the rest of the offense that there was no trade possible whatsoever. And so, essentially, Snelly just committed their life, hoping for a free 1v1. If you don't win it, well, GG. And there was no space gained off the back of it.
My problem really there for ISU was the same question that you had. Why not play for that immediate trade? But they failed to do so on 2 separate lives for Snelly. Snelly uses the ultimate, which is basically an extra life. You give yourself a 6 versus 5 for a small temporary period of time, and then you don't trade that. And then the Phoenix again runs in as the entry and dies there as well. Lockdown has been built up off the back of that ultimate orb. They're trying to use a Nanostorm to maybe clear that or the players themselves out of position, but I believe it'll be unsuccessful. It doesn't fully clear around that corner, nor does it do enough damage. And just like that, Lockdown will be used. They will gain site control. They have to clear Jared out of position, and they don't. An opening kill found. Almost a second, and they actually do indeed find it. 2-for-1 trade. You're more than happy with that if you're Sac State, and you now quickly go for a retake. One now found for Spain. Almost a second, but Sac State on map point, now looking to take it with that doubled up man advantage. Moral finds one back. Pomo walks in, but is caught out by that guiding light, and Moral swings for the kill, but IUB ninjas in the corner. ISU wins 16-14 on Haven, and then while they're out to lunch here on Pearl, get dropped down in quick succession to tie up the series.
Yeah, just a much better showing from Sac State. You got to give them credit. The other thing to note about this is the individual performances were just out of this world good for most of the Sac State roster. Like, Bowie stepped up in the second half there. Spain and Python both were unstoppable in the first half. Like, there was just too much to contend with, it felt like. And honestly, as good as things looked for, a couple of those rounds on a couple of individuals, in general, I didn't feel like there was a good plan when it came to the defensive side. There was some good moments where they were taking space, the Redbirds, but it didn't come through consistently enough. And then when you got to the attack side, we talked about some spacing issues, some difficulties when it came to actually putting yourself in position to trade those frags out. Didn't happen. So, understandable loss when you consider all those factors, I think.
And more problems were setting in the later stages. They just did not have that sustainability. Harbor and Viper used to be a 100% staple of Pearl. It still is about 60 to 70% of the time. It's arguable to not have one or the other, but missing both and trading it out for a single Astra, I think, was really the Achilles heel here for ISU. We'll see if they can make up for it. We still have a third map on the cards, and we've guaranteed ourselves now a fourth as we've tied up the scoreline. We're going to send it to a break. When we return, it's Fracture for a third.
Well, we're all tied up and getting things rolling here for our third map of this series with Fracture coming up. We're back to the Redbirds pick, which, I mean, let's be real. The Sac State side just kind of dominated their own map pick, which is going to have to feel like a breath of fresh air now that ISU can get back into home territory.
Yeah, and now as we head into Fracture, I think the main problem that'll set in for ISU is can they find that level of utility play around one another? Haven, I brought it up earlier, it's more default conventional map, doesn't require as much utility coordination and full team play. It helps when you have it, but it can lead more towards just straight up fragging power. That may have been why ISU picked it up in 16-14 fashion. But moving into map 2, that utility usage honestly wasn't there. They didn't have controllers to make up for the ground that they were losing, and they were winning some gunfights, sure, but it was too little too late. They only had it in the second half, and even then they were still being dropped down on pretty good retakes, all things considered. We'll move into our third map of Fracture and see if ISU can indeed hold the line. They start off on the defensive side, indicating that Sac State has chosen the attack, and I have to say, these look like a little bit more stock standard agent selections.
Yeah, I think this would be, assuming things do get confirmed, pretty much the standard fare. You got, Breach is undeniably the Fracture pick alongside Raze, to be fair. And then if you're going to get, depending on the controller you want, you could go for a double controller here, but a lot of times you're just going to see the solo Brimstone, which I think is what we're going to see locked in and loaded, though we are going to see double duelist on one side as opposed to the double initiator. I personally think I prefer the double initiator a little bit, but the reality is it's about playstyle, and if your playstyle is more aggressive and or you want to take those fights quickly, that double duelist can be incredibly valuable.
The double duelist, I think, is a decent selection, but running double initiator here for Sac State may work out nearly perfectly for them. Some interesting switches, if anybody is at all curious. Spain is going from the Viper on to the Sky, instead of having How to Feed play the Sky for back-to-back maps, and then How to Feed is going on to the Brimstone. So, interesting switches there. Jared keeps the Killjoy, IUB goes from Harbor to Breach, not absurd, but still not a consistent selection in terms of agent types, and then Python's playing your single duelist.